Victoria Ballard, naturopath, and today's subject is food intolerances or allergies, whatever they're called. They can wreak havoc with the hormonal pathways, all of them. Insulin resistance, which is insulin is trying to get the glucose into the cells to give you more energy for fight or flight. And this may happen when you have stressed your body with an allergen, and that will produce more cortisol. And cortisol, of course, also produces more glucose. So you've got all this glucose in your bloodstream, and because of the insulin resistance, the cells just don't want to know. You've been knocking at my door, trying to get this glucose in. I've had enough. I'm not opening the door. So it stays in the bloodstream. And now we know about leptin resistance, which was discovered in 1994. And leptin tells you when you're full. Well, allergies can interfere with all the hormonal pathways, so this may be the reason why you do not feel full, even when you've eaten a big meal, or half an hour after you've finished eating, you want something else, something sweet, some treat or other. There's a desire for more food, even though leptin should have told you that you've had enough to eat. So it should last until your next meal, which could be, depending on your intermittent fasting schedule, it could be just your next meal. Hopefully you're not snacking in between meals, but you need to stay feeling full or feeling satisfied at least until your next meal. And if leptin is disrupted, you're not even going to make it to the next meal without snacking. So we really have to address allergies because they act as a stress on the body. And the cycle is, eat the allergen, cortisol is produced because it's found as a stress. It is a stressor. It has all sorts of symptoms of stress, like eczema, migraines, IBS, all the usual symptoms that go along with this pathway being interrupted. So we need to detect the allergies. And I have to go a little bit into the past here. I graduated as a counsellor in 1975, and I knew a functional doctor who was getting people off pharmaceuticals and replacing them with supplements. We were mainly influenced by Adele Davis. She had a book called Let's Get Well, and it listed all the different symptoms and what supplements treated what. So I was not only counselling these people who were coming off pharmaceuticals, and they were only coming off the pharmaceuticals because they weren't working. Otherwise they wouldn't have gone to this doctor. And he had a lab in Harley Street. Now Harley Street, in case you're not British and you don't know, Harley Street is completely a street full of surgeries, laboratories, clinics. It's all health related, and it's where all the most expensive and highly thought of doctors have their surgeries or laboratories or clinics. So I was really I was blown away really with gratitude. that he would want to work with me, and I would do the counselling of the people coming off the pharmaceuticals, and I was supervising the detox programs, which involved a lot of sauna. So that was fun. I spent a lot of time in the sauna. But this is just a bit of history to let you know that allergies were being recognised, and an elimination diet and supplements were being used to try and get rid of the symptoms of the allergens and to find what are the allergies so that we can cut them out of the diet. You might not have to cut them out for life, but if you're found intolerant to a food, it's a very good idea to keep it out of your diet. And what they were using is lamb, which is probably the most, I mean, England is just covered in fields full of lamb. So it was maybe the most non-allergenic meat, because the sheep also is a ruminant, and a ruminant has more than one stomach. So when the ruminant eats grass, which we hope all your meat is grass-fed, when it eats the grass, it super digests it because it's got more than one stomach. So by the time it's finished doing its ruminant bit, then the meat is absolutely clean. It's absolutely fresh. And I don't know whether these doctors just did it by trial and error, or whether they just figured out, hang on, what have we been eating for the longest? For millions of years, we have been eating the meat from ruminant animals. So it made sense to make the elimination diet entirely meat. Now we use lamb, but I think in the States probably beef is more tolerated because it's been around a lot longer than sheep. You don't have that many sheep in America. I mean, some parts of America have a lot of sheep, but all over America you have got beef. Hopefully it's grass-fed. Now I'm going to stick my neck out here and say, even if it isn't grass-fed and you can't afford grass-fed free-range meat, then even the grain-fed meat, because of the more than one stomach, because of the super digestion of the food, it's still going to be clean. The meat is still going to be clean. If you can afford it, get grass-fed. But if you can't, then just get ruminant meat, either from lamb meat, beef, venison, goats, if you've got any goats in the mountainous regions, they're also ruminants. So these are the 4 ruminants that are well known. There may be some others in some other countries that I don't know about. But basically you take one of the ruminant meats, the one that you like the best, why not have fun with it? And you start cooking it in all sorts of different ways. You don't use any of the vegetable oils or the seed oils if you're frying. If you're grilling, you can just baste it with a little bit of butter. I know we haven't discovered whether you're allergic to butter yet, so probably the most ancient and safe oil would be olive oil. So if you're going to grill it, you could baste it with a bit of, we call it basting in England. You just like sort of spread a little bit of oil on it to grill it. It's unlikely that you're going to be allergic to butter because that's also been around for a long time. But the very first few weeks, I would say a minimum of 2 weeks, you just eat ruminant meat. And you find your symptoms are starting to go away, even after just 2 weeks. But if you can stay on it longer, all the better. It's obviously what is now known as the carnivore diet, but it's stricter than carnivore because we haven't yet added the other meats like pork and chicken, bacon, and we haven't added any dairy, we haven't added any butter, we haven't added eggs yet. All these are allowable on the carnivore diet, but we're going to go to the elimination diet, which is ruminant-only meat. Let's say, I mean, it's very easy for me to do by email. I've done it one-on-one, but it's so simple that it can be done by email, so I'm doing that. I'm not charging. I'm quite happy to build up my presence online, which is fairly recent because I've been doing one-on-one in person, but I can't do that anymore because I'm traveling 6 months of the year. So I can do this elimination diet with you online. I can do it by email. I prefer to use email because of the time zones. So with email, I can answer you in my daytime, which might be the middle of your nighttime. So what we do is we stay on the elimination diet. Now the doctors have found over the years which are the least likely to cause an allergic reaction. And I'm going to quote a doctor here called Dr. Natasha McBride. You can look her up on YouTube. She's absolutely amazing. She's treating really health-challenged individuals like autistic children, schizophrenics. She's treating mental illness as well as all physical illness. And the thing she finds the least allergenic is egg yolk. So you don't have to add the white. In fact, you could spread your ruminant meat with egg yolk, and you could keep the whites to one side in a bowl, because we are going to be testing whether you're allergic to the full egg, because eggs are absolutely wonderful. I have done a video on just eggs, and I've got friends here who eat only eggs and free range, not factory reared, and they're in fantastic shape. So that is their vegetarian version of an elimination diet, because they're vegetarian, they don't eat meat, so they can't do the ruminant meat as an actual elimination diet. So let's just get on with how we do the elimination diet. You stay on it till most of your symptoms have gone away. You should be losing quite a lot of weight, because allergies really stop you losing weight by interfering with the hormonal pathways that we've mentioned: insulin resistance, leptin resistance, cortisol, excess of cortisol, which is causing too much glucose in the blood. So all these things that we know put on weight, I mean, as well as just eating. And I mean, really, you do have to clean up your diet, and the best way to clean it up is to go 2 weeks on ruminant meat only. And if you can go longer and you're enjoying it, then stay on it for as long as possible. Then we will start introducing egg yolk. So you could spread your steak with egg yolk, keep the whites for later. Egg yolk is supposed to be the least allergenic food after meat. There is something called bone broth, which really deserves a video all to itself. But we're not going to be using bone broth on the elimination diet unless you can get ruminant bones. The beef bones are too big, really, to make bone broth with, but the lamb bones they make wonderful bone broth. And Natasha McBride, before she adds the egg yolks, she does the bone broth. And it's almost known as, well, it's known as the GAPS diet, which stands for gut and psychological syndrome. So we're basically addressing mood as well. So your mood should improve tremendously once you cut out the allergies. They can cause all sorts of mental health problems. We have to get rid of these allergies if we're going to lose weight healthily. So let's say you've been on the elimination diet of ruminant meat only. You've added the egg yolks, and so far, no bad reaction. Right, well, the next thing we're going to try is the whole egg. So those whites that you've been keeping to one side, you can whisk them up with the yolks and see how you do with scrambled egg. Scrambled egg omelette, not fried in vegetable oil. In fact, it's now time to really start frying in something called ghee, which is clarified butter. Even if you're allergic to dairy, even if you're allergic to butter, because the ghee has been so completely stripped of all lactose, you can cook with ghee at this stage of the diet, unless there's any bad reaction, in which case we'll have to use animal fat. The way I use animal fat is my butcher throws all the fat from the meat away. I get him to save me some. He gives me a bag full of fat. I fry it all up, turn it into, we call it dripping. I mean, it's basically animal fat. You throw away any residue and you just store it in glass jars and use it to cook with. That's the safest way to progress on this diet, because ruminant has to be a ruminant, so it has to be lamb, really. Natasha McBride does use chicken carcasses, but I'm not convinced that chicken is necessarily going to be a non-allergenic food. So you're now on ruminant meat and hopefully whole eggs. Now, if you're going 2 weeks like this with no bad results and you're still losing weight and you're still losing symptoms, the next thing you'll be pleased to hear is bacon. Yeah. There's a big scare about nitrates, and the tiny, tiny amount in there is absolutely negligible. So you can start having eggs and bacon for breakfast, ruminant meat for lunch, and whatever combination you want for dinner, unless you're intermittent fasting and only eating twice a day. So we introduced that next, and we could probably go to fish as the next least allergenic food. Preferably the oily fish, because they're so rich in omega-3. The richest in terms of its ratio between the possibility of mercury and the omega-3 is sardines, which you can buy really cheaply in tins. But make sure it's not in vegetable oil or seed oil. It could be in olive oil, or it could just be in brine. So you can start to add fish. And then you can add salmon and herring and mackerel. I don't know what are the local oily fish to you, but oily fish provide you with omega-3, which boosts your mood, which really goes a long way to keeping you on the straight and narrow to get rid of these allergies. Then we're going to start introducing chicken, pork. We've already introduced bacon, so pork should be fine. If the bacon was okay, the pork's going to be okay. So now you've got all the meats at your disposal. So you can vary your diet with different meats, have beef for lunch and lamb for dinner, and you're really going to start testing the dairy now so that you can cook with either butter or ghee. Ghee is just clarified butter. It's had all the lactose removed. It's just the fat from the butter. Now, my addiction is cheese, so be wary. We're going to introduce dairy at this point, and you may be absolutely fine with cheese. But let me say that American cheese, especially as found in McDonald's, is absolutely processed. So get your cheese from a source from England or Ireland or New Zealand, where they've got lots and lots of wonderful grass-fed butter. So New Zealand, Australia, I'm sure, I don't know about kangaroos, I don't know whether they're ruminants. I'm sorry, I need an Australian to help me out with that. So please, if you're from Australia, could you please leave me a comment, because I want to know if, I suppose I could look it up on Google and do my usual search through AI, but it would be really nice coming from you. So we've now got all the meats, fish, hopefully all the dairy except milk. Milk is too full of lactose, and many people are lactose intolerant. But lactose intolerant people can often eat butter, cheese, ghee, so don't give up, just don't drink the milk. And you have to get used to putting other things in your coffee if you're a coffee addict like me. So your early morning coffee, I don't know whether you've heard of Dave Asprey's Bulletproof Coffee. He adds grass-fed butter, ghee. He also adds coconut oil, which isn't strictly carnivore, but we're so in love with coconut oil. It's got a high smoke point. It's got lots of benefits. So at this point, we would be going away from carnivore into ketovore and using coconut, even coconut milk, coconut oil, so we're already verging away from carnivore. And so now is the time to start adding the vegetables. So add them one at a time, see if there's any reaction. You may not even want to eat the vegetables, you may like the carnivore diet, but if you're going to have vegetables, the green ones are usually the safest. Leave the nightshades till last. The nightshades being potatoes, aubergines, courgettes, tomatoes. So you could try it on your own, or you can email me for free. So why not email me for free on victoriaballardnaturopath@gmail.com. I'll put my address in the description, and I'll also put it in the comments. So let's hear from you. I want to hear from you. It'd be great if you subscribe. It'd be wonderful if you give me a like. Even better if you actually communicate with me via my email address. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And if you've done any of this on your own, if you've done carnivore on your own, I'd like to know your results, how much weight you've lost, what symptoms have gone away. I found I lost all my symptoms except my insomnia, which continues to be a challenge. So please email me. I'd like to communicate with you. That would be great. So have a great day, or a great afternoon, or a great evening, or a great night. Best wishes from India and from Victoria Ballard, naturopath. Thank you for listening. Bye.